Welcome back, everybody, to our second episode. Today, we're discussing one of the easiest ways to make visualizations feel more realistic and, of course, more complete. And to discuss that, of course, I have once again Farhan.
I
Now, Farhan, the first question is like, nowadays it's so easy to get a decent looking rendering, right? Like, you don't have more like weird reflections or strange splotches on your walls because technically everything is just top notch. If you're using Corona, you're using V-Ray or Enscape, like things look good. But
Mhm.
of course, not every render is good. Like, not only technically speaking, but like some of them don't actually feel believable in a way. They feel like they're kind of unfinished. So, what do you think makes or breaks a rendering in that sense? Like, what differs a rendering from being finished and believable from feeling like it's not there yet?
hmm. um I mean, just like you said, no matter which application you're using, which visualization tool you're using, everything is pretty much there. I think it's a matter mostly about the design narrative or storytelling, let's say, where every asset or every entourage element that you add to your scene is basically trying to explain that narrative in a more clear way. So, for example, it could be that you have a classroom, but you have assets or entourage that are not really blending in with that environment. So if you have a classroom, then probably you have students who have backpacks or they're sitting there and, looking at the lecture or just, looking at the classroom and just having a classroom environment, basically. So I think that's something, those are those small details with respect to the people assets or something. But from a broader scale, it matters how a certain time of day is being reflected in the narrative, how the light is coming in, what kind of story you are trying to tell for that particular scene. So I think it's more a matter of placement of these assets within a scene to create that narrative or tell that story in the best possible way. Now there could be different perspectives of how different architects narrate the story. That's totally understandable. But I think the key point is to sort of work on those details because you could still have a perfect render where the light looks perfect, the textures look amazing, but it's more about how you talk to the viewer or what perspective you want to share through that individual or single render.
Now, speaking of narrative, uh, there's like a thousand or a gazillion libraries out there with assets of all qualities, of all, you know, complexities and looks and everything. And there's also Chaos Cosmos. Why would anyone want to use specifically Chaos Cosmos instead of using their existing libraries? Like, is there any advantage to people
Yeah.
using Chaos Cosmos?
Mhm. Yeah, I think first and foremost, like everybody knows, it's a really huge library. We have a lot of assets and everything. You'll find something in every kind of category. And also we have different collections. We have different brands there. Many people like to use assets from Globe Plans or Evermotion. Now we have partnership with them as well, and we have a number of assets there directly. So I think what happens is that when you are trying to find the right asset, you don't find it in a library that you're already used to, then you start looking around in different websites or different platforms, and just having that translation from a different platform to your project or certain CAD application that you're using, that really affects your project in many different ways, where one of the biggest issue is of course the increased size of the project because of the million trillion polygons. So I think one thing that really Cosmos helps with is that you have everything right inside of your project, so you don't have to gather stuff from different sources. And secondly, I would say that because Cosmos is the delivery, the asset delivery platform for every Chaos product now, That means if for example, I have an asset in Enscape and I want to use that project inside of Envision, then I can be 100% sure that it's going to look really, really good inside of Envision as well. So I think that kind of translation from one application to the other, be it Envision, be it V-Ray, I think that really, really helps you to create that sort of use case or workflow where you don't have to rely on external or different sort of libraries. So I think Cosmos really shines in that interoperability to make sure that you are able to work on different platforms using the same library.
Yeah, and it's like it's interesting because some people take it for granted that things
Hmm.
work like out of the
Hmm.
box,
Yeah.
and I've been like there. I've been through the pain of getting an asset that looked good in one place, and then when I had to take it somewhere else, it didn't look as good. Like maybe a
Hmm.
material, maybe the model itself didn't look as good as it did on the other platform, and it's a
Hmm.
huge pain. So like
Yeah.
being free of that and having something that just works, to me it makes like it's a no-brainer, really. Like why wouldn't I
Yeah.
use it, like in that
Yeah.
sense? Now, to finish up, we're talking about storytelling and the quality of assets and everything, but what's that one thing that you add to your images that instantly make them look, I don't know, like believable, or
Mhm.
the, how can I say this, like what's the one asset that you often use to make your image look more believable?
Mhm. I think I can easily say that it's the human aspect, because you can have really, really beautiful images and everything, but when it comes to how people will actually interact with that space, um, that part of the storytelling is basically how I approach it. And I would always like to add a few people here and there to show how they're going to actually inhabit or interact with that space. So I think the first aspect for me would be the human aspect. It also shows you the scale of things. I mean, it could be a huge hall kind of a space, or it could be just a small room, and then just adding a single person immediately gives you an idea of what kind of a scale we're talking about. And secondly, I think it's about small things. This could be different interior objects. For example, if it's a living space, what kind of interior elements would you like to have there? That immediately gives you more context as to how the space might be used. And then of course the contextual understanding. This could be more from um, also from an exterior perspective, because sometimes we are working a lot with buildings from an exterior view, and there you need a lot of entourage assets to make it more understandable. But in general, I would say for me, the most important thing is the human scale or the human factor. And that's something that immediately makes it look believable, or at least relatable to a point. Because of the opinion that a render doesn't really have to look, very, very realistic. You should be able to, when you say believable, for me it's more like it should be relatable. So I think from that aspect, if you have a human or a person there, that's enough to give it that realism, let's say.
That's true. And nowadays we can actually improve the quality of those people that you insert in your scene
Hmm.
using AI, right? So
Yeah.
I'd say it's a no-brainer right now. Like, why not do it?
Yeah.
So thank you so much, Farhan, for this one. And thank you guys for watching. We'll see you in the next one.